Hello and a warm welcome to Advanced Audit and Assurance, your path to AAA excellence. If you're gearing up for the AAA exam previously recognized as the P7 exam, you're at the right place. In this video, we will walk through the past exam question. Get ready, we're not just studying the past exam question, we are unlocking the secrets to decoding the scenarios, finding numerous points we can make in the exam to gain marks easily, masterfully drafting answers up to the examiner standards, and skyrocketing your chances of success in the AAA exam. Stay tuned for game changing insights that will transform your approach and elevate your ACCA journey. Let's go ahead. In this video, we will be discussing September 2020 question number 2A. Mind it, it's an important question for the exam. AAA exam consists of ethics. This question is really important for you to practice. Now let's read the requirement first because we are going to begin with the question soon. See, the requirement tells us comment on the quality of the planning and performance of the audit of reverse company. That is, we have to comment on the quality of the planning that took place at before the audit and the performance of the audit. That is how the audit was performed or conducted at reverse company, right? We have two things to do over here. Now, further, it states that discussing the quality control, ethical, and other professional issues raised and recommending appropriate actions to be taken, right? Comment on the quality of the planning and performance of the audit of reverse company. That is, we have to comment on the quality of the planning that took place before the audit was performed and how the audit was performed. Once we have completed the audit, what was the performance of the audit? Then we have to discuss the quality control, ethical, and other professional issues raised. And we have to recommend appropriate actions to be taken. And it states 15 marks. Candidates 15 marks for such a short question. And we have to cover up so many things in this. You see how we have to divide our marks accordingly, or we have to make points. It doesn't matter somewhere less, somewhere more. We have to cover points, and it's 1 mark per point we are making. We have to identify the points from this case given it to us, and we have to draft our answers to give to up to the mark of the examiner's expectation, and we have to give a reasonable recommendation at the end for the actions to be taken. All right, so let's begin reading the question now. Since you've read the requirement, we know what is required, what we have to find in the question scenario. Then now let's go move on towards reading the question of reading the scenario. See, question number 2. It is 1st July 20x5. Okay, the dates are always important. You need to remember that. You are an audit manager in Welford Company, a firm of chartered certified accountants. All right, you are the audit manager in Welford Company, a firm of chartered certified accountants. Fine. Your role includes performing post issuance audit quality reviews. Okay. You are an audit manager in the Welford and Company, and your role includes performing post issuance audit quality reviews. So you're always working on the kind of audit performed at the client. So you're working after the audit has been done, post issuance of audit quality, right? And you have been asked to review audit work performed on reverse company for the financial year ended 31st January 20x5. Okay. So the financial year has ended on 31st January 20x5. You need to mark the dates as I told you. You have to work, you have been asked to review the work performed, right? The audit work performed for the year ended 31st January 20x5. You have gathered the following information from your review of the audit file. Okay. So candidates, you remember that we were told in our requirement over here that we have to comment on the planning which took place before the audit, the quality of the planning, and we have to comment on the performance of the audit, how the audit was performed at reverse company. And then we have to discuss the quality control, ethical and other professional issues raised, and recommend appropriate actions to be taken. Right? So now this we have read the introductory paragraph. Now let's read the further paragraph. So see, audit team and fees. Rewards Company is a listed company operating in the construction industry. Okay, construction industry, and it is a listed company. Always you need to remember that if it is a listed company, there are so many rules and regulations, there are so many departments being regulated by government bodies, by NGOs, that they need to follow the rules and regulations, they need to follow appropriate guidelines, and they need to comply with them. So it's a listed company. So we have marked this listed company. Remember, whenever you are reading a scenario, whenever you are reading a question in the exam, read the requirement first. Don't leave the requirement for the end. Read the requirement first to identify what you are looking for in the paragraph provided. Then whatever dates are provided, keep marking them. Mark the dates. Dates are always important. Then the third thing you need to do is you need to check whether the company is a listed company, the audit client is a listed company, or it is a non-listed company. Because you have to look at the compliance records of the company too, where required. The company complies with corporate governance regulations and has an audit committee. See, complies with the corporate governance regulations as it is a listed company, and it has an audit committee because it is a listed company, so that's perfect. Nothing in this sentence. Rivers Company has been an audit client of Welford and Company for 8 years. See, it's a long-standing client. It's a long-standing client. It has been an audit client for 8 years. So it is a continued client, and it is a long-standing client for Welford and Company. Then let's read further. Bob Newbold has been the audit engagement partner during this time. Are you able to follow what I'm saying? See, Reverse Company has been an audit client of Welford and Company for 8 years. So that's perfect. That's a nice thing that we have a continued client. We have a ongoing client on our board. So that's fine. No issues with this up till now. And Bob Newbold has been the audit engagement partner during this time. This means that the Bob Newbold has been the engagement partner for 8 years. Bob Newbold has been the partner for 8 years. Right. This is really remarkable. This is an issue we have highlighted over here in this case. This is the first issue we have highlighted in the paragraph provided. How? Because audit client partner should be, should the partner should be rotated 5 years maximum. Before that, the partner can rotate. The partner can stay as a partner, can act as a partner for 5 years. That's it. You are able to follow what I'm saying. I hope you are able to recall your studies. All right, then let's move on. The report contained an unmodified opinion. So see, it's a long-standing client. Our partner has been the part of since 8 years, and the report was unmodified. But don't you think over here there is a familiarity threat which could be, appearing in the between the partner and the client? Because the partner, the audit team is familiar with the engagement client, so they would be able to collaborate. They would be taking not so skeptical now. See, you are able to raise points. You have 15 marks to cover. You have to think, you have to brainstorm yourself to bring in points. Now see, Welford and Company requires its staff to record each hour they spend working on each client in the firm's time management system. Okay, so Welford and Company is recording its time spent by its staff at each audit client, right? So that's perfect. From reviewing the time records, relating to the audit of Rivers Company, you are aware that Bob and the other audit team members recorded the following amount of time on the audit. Okay, we are provided with a timesheet. Bob Newbold, the audit engagement partner, has spent 2 hours on this audit client during the audit. Candidates, 2 hours only. Don't you think 2 hours spent by the audit engagement partner is very less or too much? What is your opinion? It's too much or too less? Well, you're right at your end, but 2 hours for an audit engagement for audit engagement client is really too less for the audit engagement partner. Because why less? Because see, within 2 hours, proper planning also cannot take place, proper review also cannot take place after the audit, and during the audit engagement partner cannot direct his team in an any direction toward marking anything important, marking anything as less important. No, the audit engagement partner cannot perform his duties within 2 hours at an audit client, that also a listed audit client. See how we are bringing in listed in our answer. Then Pat Canley, the senior audit manager. Okay, she is someone after the audit engagement partner. They spent 6 hours only. How could you perform an audit within 2 hours? The audit engagement partner giving 2 hours of duty only. The senior audit manager, that is right after the audit engagement partner, they are only spending 6 hours at the audit client. How? I don't know what's wrong with them, because you cannot perform a good audit, a good high quality audit within 2 hours or within 6 hours. You with to review audit working papers also requires more time. You see my point. Then comes the audit manager. After the senior audit manager, it's the audit manager who spent 35 hours at the client. So their time seems to be reasonable. Then we have got six audit assistants. Six audit assistants altogether spending 130 hours. Six audit assistants spending 130 hours. So this is roughly, I think, about 22 hours by each audit assistant. The audit manager is spending 35 hours at the audit. The one audit assistant is spending only roughly 22 hours. So, what kind of quality do we expect from the audit? Why I am talking about quality again and again? Because that's because it's the it's a question of quality control, ethical issues, and we have to comment on the quality. We are reading the question to find out the points related to our audit, post audit performance. So we are going to comment on the audit quality which was done over here, which was performed over here. So we have concluded that the time spent by each individual engagement team is really too less compared to what it should have been. Ideally, it should have been, right? Now, see, let's move on to the next paragraph. It is apparent from your review that almost all of the detailed review of the audit working papers was completed by Anessa Cainton. Anessa Cainton, or see, it is apparent from your review that almost all of the detailed review of the audit working papers was completed by Anessa Cainton. So the detailed review of the audit working papers was completed by Anessa Cainton, and Anessa Cainton is the audit manager. See, detailed review of the audit working papers is not supposed to be performed by Anessa Cainton. It's the duty of the audit engagement partner. In case if the audit engagement partner is not available, they can delegate this duty to the senior audit manager. But senior audit manager cannot delegate this duty to audit manager, because audit manager role is not so not so high or not so big enough to mark them as reviewing the audit working papers, right? Then let's move further. Who has evidenced her review by stating the final review on each page of the audit file. Okay. ANSA has performed the detailed review of the audit working papers and has evidenced her review by stating final review on each page of the audit file. Okay. She has recently been promoted to audit manager. See. Another point. See, this is about 2.5 lines paragraph, and we have identified 2 points from this short paragraph. One is that Anessa Canton was the audit manager and she did the detailed review of the audit working papers, which is incorrect or is not in accordance with the audit procedures. Then the other point which we highlighted is that she was recently promoted to audit manager. This means that she does not has enough experience to perform the detailed review of the audit working papers. She is new as an audit manager, so she should not have been delegated this duty or should not have been assigned this duty of reviewing the audit working papers. You see how we are able to identify points. It's so easy. You have to be skeptical during the exam. You have to be skeptical. You have to read the question in a skeptical manner to identify questions to identify points easily, and you have to identify points and elaborate them, redraft them so that you can gain marks. You can gain maximum marks available. I don't say you will be able to make 10 out of 10 or 15 out of 15, but you need to practice so much that you are able to gain the maximum number of marks available to pass the AAA exam. Obviously, you need to pass the AAA exam even if you are attempting for the first time, even if you are uh, go, at giving a reset exam. You have to focus. You have to be focused in your studies. You have to concentrate on identifying points. Once you know the trick of identifying points, you are able to focus on drafting your answer. And once you have gained your technique of drafting your answer, once you have gained enough experience, enough, you have practiced enough, you are able to identify points and you are able to draft them, you will pass your exam. It's my assurity to you. Once you are, but you have to promise yourself, you have to work, you have to practice, you have to put in your efforts first. Then let's move on to the next paragraph. You are also aware that Bob Newbold booked a total of 40 hours to Reverse Company in respect of non-audit work performed. So there's a non-audit work performed for which Bob Newbold, the audit engagement partner, has booked 40 hours to Reverse Company. Don't you think this is something alarming? That Bob Newbold, the audit engagement partner, is providing 40 hours of work for the non-audit service to be provided to the audit client Reverse Company. And for Bob Newbold has only given 2 hours to the client audit. Non-audit work 40 hours, audit work only 2 hours by Bob Newbold, the engagement partner. It's alarming, really alarming. We will have to draft a point on this too. See, each sentence has a point. Almost each sentence in the paragraph has a point. Right. Now, let's read further. The only information you can find in the documentation is that the audit no, is that the non-audit work related to a special investigation. The only information you can find in the documentation is the non-audit work related to a special investigation. You see, the information only available in the documentation is that this is a special investigation non-audit work. There is no further documentation available for this work. And that Bob confirms that it does not create a threat to auditor objectivity. Bob, the engagement partner, is confirming that this does not create a threat to the auditing auditor objectivity. Okay. The total fee charged the total fee charged for the audit was $250,000. Okay. And the fee for the special investigation was $890,000. Once the engagement partner is saying that the objectivity is not threatened by the non-audit service provided, and when we go into monetary terms, the special investigation company, reverse company, is paying us $890,000 for the special investigation, the non-audit work, and reverse company is only paying us $250,000 for the audit work performed at the reverse company. Don't you think this is something alarming? And the engagement partner says that this does not create a threat to auditor objectivity. How could he say this? Obviously, the objectivity is not going to be, the same. It's going to be threatened because this is 890,000 and this is a huge amount. Now, see, let's read going concern. From reviewing the audit working papers, you are aware that going concern was identified as a significant audit risk at the planning stage of the audit due to low profit margins or losses being made on many of the company's construction contracts and increasing economic uncertainty. Right? Now let's read this again. Going concern. Listen to how I am reading it out, so you can able to identify points. Going concern. From reviewing the audit working papers, you are aware that going concern was identified as a significant audit risk at the planning stage of the audit due to low profit margins or losses being made on many of the company's construction contracts and increasing economic uncertainty. See. I hope you are able to get the point, which is to be identified here. That the audit working papers were reviewed by you, the manager, right? You are aware that going concern was identified as a significant audit risk at the planning stage of the audit due to low profit margins or losses being made on many of the company's construction contracts and increasing economic uncertainty. So I hope you are able to see or you are able to identify what point I am trying to highlight over here. Yes, going concern was a significant audit risk at the planning stage. So the time spent by Bob, the audit engagement partner, and the senior audit manager was too less because the going concern was a significant area of the audit, and it was identified in the beginning at the planning stage of the audit. What was the reason behind this? The reason was low profit margins or losses being made on most of the contracts, right? And the increasing economic uncertainty. Okay, so you see how we identified one more point. Now see, the company typically has 20 contracts ongoing at any time. Okay, so we are provided with this information that the company has 20 contracts ongoing at any time. Okay, we are not using this information right now, but we have highlighted this 20 contracts so that we are able to make use of it where required. Let's read further. Most of the audit work on going concern was performed by Mary Loxley, an audit assistant who has just taken her last professional exam and is not yet qualified. I hope you are trained enough now to identify the point I am trying to highlight. Let's do it together. Most of the audit work on going concern was performed by Mary Loxley. Mary Loxley performed most of the audit work on going concern, which was a significant issue highlighted at the planning stage of the audit, and she is an audit assistant. She is an audit assistant and she performed most of the work on going concern. Isn't this something you're able to make a point on? See, audit work work on going concern being a significant issue highlighted at the planning stage of the audit. So a more senior staff, someone like audit manager or maybe senior audit manager or maybe the engagement partner should have worked on this aspect of the audit or this significant issue of the audit. And this was performed by the audit assistant Mary Loxley, and who has just taken up last professional exam and is not yet qualified. She's unqualified. She's not even professionally qualified. She's not a proper professional. She's not qualified to work on going concern, and she has performed the work on going concern. Oh my goodness, this case has so many points and it has covered up so many things in this case. The examiner has covered up so many things in this case. Let's move further. The majority of the audit work performed on going concern focused on a review of five major contracts to determine their profitability. Huh. See, the majority of the audit work performed on going concern, which was performed by Mary Loxley, the audit assistant who is not yet qualified, focused on a review of five major contracts. She only reviewed five major contracts. Selective auditing, selective studying of the going concern. No, I don't think this was correct step. What is your opinion? Share your opinion, please. Think of your opinion. You need to brainstorm yourself. Think positively. Think about this issue. Highlight the issue yourself. Then let me continue. Look, the majority of the audit work performed on going concern focused on a review of five major contracts to determine their profitability. Major contracts would obviously be profitable, and when they are profitable, the going concern would not be an issue because the sample was on a sampling basis was not you know performed properly. The sampling was not random, it was selective sampling, five major contracts. Then five major contracts would obviously be profitable because they are major contracts. And obviously, if they are profitable, the going concern would not be issued, would not be highlighted as a material issue. So many things, so many things. Now see, let's move ahead. The management of a reverse company identified the major contracts for review and provided Mary with forecasts indicating that the contracts would all make a small profit. Now you see how the case is turning around. The management of reverse company identified the five major contracts which were reviewed by Mary Locksley, right? And provided Mary with forecasts indicating that the contracts would all make a small profit. So Mary Locksley, the audit assistant, has not done her duty properly. Why? Because she did not do sampling on a random basis. The sampling was done by the management who had identified the five major contracts to be reviewed by Mary, and then Mary used the forecast provided by the management. Obviously, when the management is providing forecast for five major companies, five major contracts, how can you assume that the management is, how can you be so sure that the management has given you the correct contracts or you have identified the correct contracts too? Especially when going concern was a material or was a significant issue highlighted at the planning stage of the audit. And you're using the forecast prepared by the management, which are showing you small profit, Another thing, another alarming point. See, the management of reverse company identified the major contracts. Management identified the major contracts for review and provided Mary with forecasts indicating that the contract should all make a small profit. We will elaborate these points. Don't worry. These are points we are highlighting in the case. Right now, we are just reading the case. In your actual exam, you should highlight the same way I am doing. One word, two word. That's it. Why one word, two word, or short highlighting or marking the points? Because this enables you to save time. You have highlighted the point which is to supposed to be the basis for your elaborated point. So once you have marked this point or you have highlighted only this portion, you will start elaborating. Once you come back while drafting your answers, you won't have to read the whole sentence again and again. You just read the short highlighted content and then move on. Draft your answer, draft your answer, draft your points. That's it. See, Mary confirmed that the assumptions used in the forecast agreed to the assumptions used in the previous years and concluded that the contracts which she had reviewed support the going concern status of the company. Uh, two more lines. Candidates, two more lines. Read the sentence again. Mary confirmed that the assumptions used in the forecast agreed to the assumptions used in the previous years. Okay, that's right. And concluded that the contracts which she had reviewed support the going concern status of the company. This sentence seems alright, don't you think so? Certainly no, certainly no. See, Mary confirmed that the assumptions used in the forecast, that is prepared by the management forecast, agree to the assumptions used in the previous years because they haven't changed the forecast. Obviously, the forecasts are supposed to agree with the previous year's assumptions, but candidates, but we have a going concern issue highlighted in the current year. We cannot use the forecasts or the assumptions used in the previous year. We have to prepare the new forecasts, but those were prepared by the management, and management is providing you with a forecast to review for going concern. So many issues, highlighting so many issues. Candidates, there are so many issues connected to each other. Look how the connection is being made. Look how the connections are being made. That the Mary has assumed the forecast agreed with the assumed forecast in the previous years or the assumptions used in the previous years, whereas going concern was highlighted as a major issue, as a significant issue at the in the current year. So obviously the assumptions used in the previous year are not valid anymore based on the you know based on the criteria or based on the scenario in the current year. And she has concluded that the assumptions were correct. You are able to identify the point because she's assuming that the assumptions agreed with the previous years and she's concluding that the contracts which she had reviewed support the going concern status of the company. She was provided with five major contract forecasts made by the government, made by the management, and she has audited those forecasts. She has assu- given a conclusion that the assumptions were valid because they were the same as the previous year assumptions, and the going concern issue was not an issue in this case because the contracts all made a profit, being a major contract. So, don't you think this is something alarming? Sorry. Now see another line. Having reviewed these major contracts, Mary completed the conclusion on going concern, stating that there is no significant uncertainty over going concern. Look at this point now. Look at the mouse pointer. The company typically has 20 contracts ongoing at any time. 20 contracts is the total sum number of contracts we have. Mary has only ordered the assumptions used and the forecast provided for 5 major contracts out of 20. So 5 divided by 20 is only 25%. Candidates only 25% contracts were audited or their forecasts were audited, and Mary has concluded that going concern was not an issue. How could she? How could she? Is it a reasonable sample? 5 upon 20 into 100, 25% only. 25% contracts, those also major contracts identified by the management, were audited, and based on those 5%, that is 25, based on those 5 contracts, that is only 25% contracts, Mary is able to conclude that the going concern was not an issue. Don't you think this is an issue? Having reviewed these major contracts, Mary completed the conclusion on going concern, stating that there is no significant uncertainty over going concern. See how many points we have highlighted in the paragraph or in the scenario provided to us. In this case, we mark the dates, but in this scenario, the dates are not really important yet. But see how many points we have identified now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and one more we can draft over here, 18. We have identified 18 points, candidates, 18 points. We only have to redraft 15 points for the 15 marks answer. We don't have to give all 18 points here, because in the exam scenario, in the exam hall, when you're answering your exam or when you're drafting your answer for the exam, you don't have extra time. You cannot waste time drafting extra points. See how I have showed you that we can draft 18 points. We have identified 18 points and we can draft our answer well on that. And other than that, we have to recommend appropriate actions to be taken. That's not given in the case or in the scenario. We have to write them by ourselves. So if we can assume that we are providing 3 actions after that, so 18 plus 3 makes it 21 marks in all. We are having 21 marks material provided to us, and we are only asked to provide 15 marks answer, 15 points out of 21 marks or 21 points. So don't you think that's easy? Obviously, we can mark or we can easily gain passing marks. Even out of 15, if we can take, if we assume that not all 15 points are properly drafted or not even properly, or not well written, well answered, even if all 15 are not, you are not able to write a reasonable answer for 15 points, you might end up gaining 14 marks or 13 marks in this part A of question number 2A. So if you are able to score 13 or 14 marks for this part, Don't you think it's easy to qualify? It's not easy to pass the paper, even if it's qualifying attempt for any of you. Don't you think you will qualify once you have done this? You will become an affiliate. Yes. See, it is so easy to identify points. It's just you need to think. You need to brainstorm yourself. You need to keep focused. You need to study well. You need to focus on your studies well so that you are able to gain marks. See how we have identified 18 points, 18 marks, and we have to only give 15 marks. Answer. So I think we should start drafting our answer for this part. Now let's move on to drafting your answers. See, we have to cover 15 points. Remember, 15 points. But I am going to guide you on drafting the answer with the maximum points we have covered. Don't worry. So that you have complete information, complete guidance, and you have complete, knowledge and practice of how to draft your answer in the actual exam. Because it's not necessary that you would come up with the same answer or with the same points during the actual exam. So you need to cover all the points provided in the question. So let's go on with drafting the answers. First, let us see this thing. Comment on the quality of the planning and performance of the audit of reverse company. Okay, right. Discussing the quality control, ethical and other professional issues raised, and recommending appropriate actions to be taken. Right, because it's always a good start, a good beginning to begin your answer with the sentence given in the requirement. You should not directly start writing down your answer. Always give a short sentence based on your requirement. All right. So let's begin. See, um, we would give a short sentence in the beginning, introductory sentence. We would say a review of the information reverse company relating to the reverse company indicates that the audit was not properly planned, right? A review of the information relating to the reverse company indicates that the audit was not properly planned, we can say conducted, and performed. So we've mentioned that the audit was not properly planned, conducted, and performed in just a short sentence, short sentence briefly describing the issue. Now let's begin, drafting the answers to the points which we have identified in this case. So let's begin one by one. Now see, the first thing which we can come up with this is that the audit team and fees. The first information provided in the scenario. We would begin with this. Now see, Reverse Company is a listed company operating in the construction industry. The company complies with corporate governance regulations and has an audit committee. We identified that there was no issue in this sentence. The Reverse Company has been an audit client of Welford and Company for 8 years, and Bob Newpold has been the audit engagement partner during this time. We just discussed this earlier that The engagement partner has been an engagement partner or has performed his duty as an engagement partner for this listed client for a long, long, long period. It's more than in the allowed period. Okay, so we shall draft a point for this one. Right, so let's begin. The, as mentioned by me earlier, that this point is supposed to be the audit partner rotation. So it's our choice. We can give a heading: audit partner rotation. Right? It's choice. Just to make it easier for the examiner, I've just mentioned the heading. Otherwise, it's not really required in the actual exam. You can directly draft your answer. It's no issues. I am just trying to show you how to make it easier for the examiner to view your answer or to identify points from your answer. I am increasing the font size so that it's easier for you to read the answer. Now see, the reverse company has been an audit client of Welford and Company for 8 years, and Bob Newbold has been the audit engagement partner during this time. Let's begin drafting this point. You can say Bob Newbold has been acting as the audit engagement partner for 8 years, right? Since now we are making use of the point of listed company I mentioned earlier. Since reverse company is a listed company, right? You're seeing how I'm making the point. This does not allow the engagement partner to act as a partner for more than 7 years, right? See how we have made the point. We have told the issue that Bob has been the engagement partner for a long period, and then we have highlighted how it is an issue that the code does not allow or the listed company partner should not be a partner for more than 7 years. Right? Now, further, we will elaborate this point a bit further that such a long duration, I mentioned this point earlier too, will create a self interest threat, right, to objectivity. Such a long duration will create a self interest threat to objectivity, whereby the audit judge, whereby the audit, whereby the audit firm's judgment is affected. Why is it affected? Because it's going to lose a long standing client by concern of losing a long standing client. This is what we discussed. Just recall, few minutes ago we just discussed this point. See how I have covered 2 points. One with the long association, 7 years, and one with the long association self-interest. Right? We have identified 1 point long association, and we have drafted 2 points with this for this one. Then one more point we can make is familiarity threat, because such a long association could create familiarity threats. See how they are connected. One thing is connected with the other. One point, we have identified one single point, and now we are redrafting that same single point into so many points. We are utilizing that information for so many points. So let's begin further. We will tell about the familiarity threat. Um, a, a familiarity threat arises due to close relationships, right? Close relationships between what? Between the audit engagement partner and the management of the reverse company. Due to close relationships between the audit engagement partner and the management of the reverse company. You see how we have crafted 3 points, 3 different points, right? Now, why we have identified that this creates a familiarity threat. Long association creates a familiarity threat between the management of the reverse company and the audit engagement partner. But what effect does it have? We haven't told the effect why this is an familiarity threat. We need to, describe the issue why it is a familiarity threat, right? Because over here we would now tell that the engagement partner ceases to exercise audit language, to exercise appropriate sufficient no sufficient to exercise sufficient professional, it's audit jargon, you need to focus on this skepticism, right? And if the partner ceases to exercise sufficient professional skepticism, we would say that this affects the audit quality, so impacting the audit quality, right? Because it's the audit quality that matters. It's the audit quality you need to focus on. It's the audit quality that really, needs to be focused and needs to be improved. In this case, see how we have drafted 3 points for the same point, audit engagement partner. Now, one more point that we could draft, or I am coming up with, is see, such a long duration for the audit engagement partner to act as an audit engagement partner. Don't you think the quality of controls acting at our firm or in our firm need to be reviewed? Don't you think Welford and company should review its quality and its what we call its procedure or its process, that the partner has been allowed to remain as a or act as an audit engagement partner for longer than the period allowed? Yes, you are right. So see how we will make this point. We will draft this point. Now let's draft this point. Bob has been allowed to continue as the audit engagement partner for longer than the period allowed indicates, what does it indicates? That the procedures act in or the policies in our firm are not so strong enough. We are not, you know, abiding by the policies. So indicates that Welford company, right, does not have appropriate policies and procedures designed to comply with with relevant ethical requirements. See how we have identified 4 marks, candidates 4 marks. Now, when we have identified the issue in this one, but we haven't told why or what should be done, because that is also equally important. You need to tell the impact or the effect why it is important. So we would further complete this point by saying that uh, the firm should review its procedures. Rather, we have stated policies and procedures and make necessary improvements to it. Right? We have completed this point. Now let's see further what should be done. We have completed this point. Bob Newbold was the engagement partner, and we have made 1, 2, 3, and 4 paragraphs. Candidates, we have made 4 paragraphs for this single point. We have made 4 points out of this 1 point. It's like 4 marks we have covered up till now. I'm just trying to show you that how easy it is to make points, how easy it is to identify points, and how easy it is to score in this paper. It's not so it is not so difficult. It is not so uh, difficult to identify points, and it can be easily made and it can be easily passed. You can pass this exam easily. It's just the matter of professional judgment and professional skepticism that you need to find out the points, you need to identify the points, and you need to state the points in your answer. So see, now let's read this further. Now the points which we will make are going to be from this whole area, that the time spent was very less, and so the quality of the audit would have been affected therefore. So we can say that supervision and time spent on audit. This is just a hint for the examiner to identify points that this paragraphs would contain points related to this time. So it's easier for the examiner to identify your points and to give you marks. See, Welford and Company requires its staff to record each hour they spend working on each client on the firm's time management system. From the reviewing the time records relating to the audit of Rivers Company, you are aware that Bob and the other audit team members recorded the following amount of time on the audit. Now see, we have seen that Bob Newbold, the audit engagement partner, has only spent 2 hours on audit, which is we identified is really less. So let's draft a point first for the Bob over here. Bob Newbold has, or rather not spent it, has booked only 2 hours for the audit work performed at Rivers Company. This is insufficient time for the audit. See, we have stated, we have just stated that this is insufficient time for the audit. Now let's elaborate. He should have spent an appropriate, we are not stating how much time, but an appropriate time performing the review of the audit working papers, because they were reviewed by the junior level staff, that is the audit manager, in order to satisfy himself that's sufficient. See, this is a terminology, this is a audit jargon. Appropriate audit evidence was obtained. See, you need to focus on using the audit jargons, audit terminology in your exam. See, we have told that this was a less or insufficient time spent by Bob, and he should have worked more on the review of the audit working papers to satisfy himself that the audit evidence was sufficient and appropriate, right? Now, we were given over here that most of the detailed review of the audit working papers was done by Anissa Kainton, the audit manager, who has been recently promoted to be the audit manager. Let us draft this point too. Mhm. Most of the final review of the audit working papers was performed by I don't know the spelling, Anesa, Anessa Canton, right? Anessa Canton, the newly promoted. We are mentioning this why it was, the audit quality was compromised. The newly promoted audit manager, because she would lack experience, right? So we would say manager who may not have the necessary experience to perform the review, right? You see how I am drafting the points, and we can say that further we can elaborate, or we can mention that what we could say that she had insufficient evidence to support the audit opinion. She had, you see, we can say it is because we won't give anything definite, right? We will just tell the possibilities. It is possible that uh, there is insufficient evidence to support it is possible that there is insufficient evidence to support the audit opinion which has been issued, right? We were just told that it was an unmodified uh, opinion, right? So we've mentioned this point over here. Now we can utilize this point we identified in another way and give one more mark by saying that instead of Anissa Kindon, this work could have been delegated to Pat Canley, the senior audit manager, right? Who just spent 6 hours because this was an inappropriate delegation of work to an inexperienced person, right? So we can draft this point further and we can elaborate it further to gain one more mark over here. See, we would say that some of the review of the working papers could have been delegated to mm, Pat Canley, right? Mm, to be the appropriate person, right? To be the appropriate person other than the audit engagement partner, right? Now, we would also mention that Pat only recorded 6 hours of his work done. However, Pat only recorded 6 hours, right, of work on the audit. See how we have identified 2 points from, rather 3 points from this one. One we made for the Bob, then we made for Anissa, then third we made that Pat could have been the appropriate person rather than Anissa, right? Now we can one make. I think I'm coming up with one more point that we could have made over here, that we were provided information about the going concern, right? And mm, and this was like, going concern was identified as major issue or a significant issue, and and after that also NSA was working on the detailed work of the review of the audit working papers. We could define this in another point. You can draft another point for this one to to show that we have understood the question and we made points. So let's draft this one too. Too much of the detailed review was delegated to the to NSA, the audit manager, right? Now, not rather to the audit manager, given, because we would complete the sentence including why this was not correct, right? Given that going concern was identified as a significant audit risk, right? This means that the audit engagement partner should have more involvement in the audit review, right? So you are able to see how we have drafted points, how we are identifying points. Now, what we could do is, let me show you, let me give you an overview of the number of marks we have covered: 1 mark, 2 mark, 3 mark, 4 mark, 5 marks, 6 marks, 7 marks, and this is the eighth mark. We have covered 8 marks out of 15. So don't you think out of we have covered 8 marks and we have just covered this short portion up till now. Now see, we are coming up with the going concern, right? Going concern issue is coming up now. So we can draft a point for going concern too. But rather let's see, no, let us first complete this one, that special investigation, the special investigation points are coming up first. So let us cover with the special investigation. So we can, since we are now doing the special investigation drafting, we can say special investigation. We can make this heading to make it easier for the examiner to identify the points we are drafting now. So it's for, let us give a short reading of this paragraph. You are also aware that Bob Newbold booked a total of 40 hours to Rivers Company in respect of non-audit work performed. The only information you can find in the documentation is that the non-audit work related to a special investigation and that Bob confirms that this does not create a threat to auditor objectivity. The total charged for the audit was $250,000 and the fee for the special investigation was $890,000. You're able to see how many points we can draft. So many. Let me show you and let us begin. First, we can say that we will mention a point related to 40 hours of work over here. Bob booked 40 hours for the special investigation performed at Rivers Company, right? Which shows his focus and attention is diverted to the special investigation. You see my point. Further, we were told a point for the that there was no, documentation. Only it stated that it was a special investigation. So we could say that there is insufficient documentation uh, documentation as to the nature of the work performed for the non-audit service. C. We have stated that it is does not have a sufficient documentation for the non-audit service. And further, I think we can say that service which could be a service not in the public interest because we don't have enough documentation, right? Further, we can say reverse company. We are using the point of listed is a listed company and the code does not allow the audit firm to provide certain because we're not told about the kind of service, so we would say certain non-audit service, right? And further, we can say that the lack of documentation could be uh, due to a prohibited service being provided by Welford company, right? Now, what else? We'll use this fee sentence, the 250,000 and 890,000. We could say that the fee for non-audit service of dollar 890,000 was no, not was, is substantial, right? Is substantial and creates a self interest threat because it's a substantial fee for the audit firm. Due why it's a self interest threat? Due to the the monetary value of the service provided, right? Bob's attention is on this service, rather is focused on this service, which resulted resulted in inappropriate delegation of audit work. You see how we are drafting points. It's so easy and so simple. You need to think simple, be simple, and pass the exam, right? Now, what further we could do is there could be an intimidation threat as well, don't you think? I'm not diverting the screen to the question because these are points we are making generic points, but we need to make these. We need to draft these to gain marks. Let us begin. Mhm. A self-interest threat is created as the value of the service provided is substantial to the is substantial um, compared to the audit fee, right? The mm, high non-audit fee let's see. The higher non-audit fee creates an intimidation threat because we would define why. Because they would form a bigger, or no, not a bigger, larger seems appropriate, a larger part of the firm's income, total income, right? And the audit firm may not be objectively threatened for the fear of losing the audit client. See how we are drafting the points. One more point I'm coming up is coming in my mind. One more point I can create is uh, the substantial fee, the substantial non-audit fee could be perceived as a bribe, right? And it should be investigated. You see, one more point. You can draft so many points. Let's have a look how many marks we have covered up till now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. See, we have covered up 15 marks till now, and we have only covered few points from the case. Its going concern is still remaining. So you are able to see how many points we have. Going concern is supposed to be the last one, and then we were asked to recommend appropriate actions too. So you see how many points are available in the exam. You just need to have the trick to identify your points, elaborate the points, and write your exam answer. That's it. Now let's draft our point for the going concern. This we have already covered our marks, but I'm going to cover up all the possibilities of marks available so that you can brainstorm yourself. You are able to think on your own how to draft points, right? Mhm. Now we just went through the question. We covered up that going concern was something thing which was performed by the audit assistant. So let's draft a point first for this one, a generic point, kind of a generic point. The audit work on going concern was inappropriately delegated to an audit assistant who may not have the necessary skill or experience. You're able to see, you're able to think this point. It's a generic point, right? Going concern, we are making this also a generic point, was identified as a significant audit risk that involves using judgment to evaluate the information provided related to the contracts. or related to the ongoing contracts, right? Which was performed on a sampling basis. The sample was provided by the management, not the auditor, right? Further, let's draft more points. This is also a, I think this will be a short point too. The work ongoing concern should have been delegated to a senior member of the team, of the audited team. You see, there's nothing related to being so skeptical or too thinking too much. And of the audit team, who is more experienced, because we have mentioned that the experience was an issue for the audit assistant, who is more experienced and can challenge the management. Because of the experience, they can challenge the management, right, where necessary. You see how we are able to identify and make points so easily in the exam. Now see, we can say that the contracts which were examined were provided by the management. We can make a point for this one, and then we can provide another point, or we can draft another point with this one, that only 5 contracts were reviewed out of 20, which is, insufficient audit evidence, right? So let's draft points, 2 more points. The audit work ongoing concern was mm, performed on contracts selected by the management of Rivers Company, right? 1 point. One more point we can make is only no, right, 5 contracts were reviewed, right, out of 20 ongoing contracts. And it says contract 20 going contracts at any time, right? uh, it is possible that this sample does not cover the audit work required and is insufficient audit evidence. More samples or more work should have been should have been performed. Hmm. It should have been performed, right? You're able to see how many points we have covered up till now. I just We just covered 15 points before going concern, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. 20 marks candidates, 20 marks. We are covering the points, we are telling the actions to be taken, and where required, we are telling the actions to be taken for also. Now, see, these were the points which the management of reverse company identified or gave us the samples to work on. And don't you think that they selected the selected the five major contracts? Those contracts were the ones which were already performing well, which were already good, which were already making a profit, as mentioned in the case, right? So we can tell the examiner that we have read this point as well, and we know that this is also an issue identified by us. So the examiner can, evaluate us that yes, we have the knowledge, right? So let us draft a point for this one too. Mm, the management of a reverse company may have selected the profit making contracts for review, right? This would be, create a false impression of the performance of the company as a whole when projected as a whole, right? Uh, Resulting in an inappropriate conclusion conclusion reached for going concern. See how easy it is to draft our points. You just need to focus and you need to be able to elaborate. That's it. Now, one more thing which I am thinking of could be that this small selection which was being audited by the audit assistant, and she concluded that the assumptions used in the current year matched or were in line with the assumptions used in the previous year. Don't you think we can draft a point for this one too? So let's draft a point for this one too. Uh, the assumptions used in the current year reflected the assumptions used in the previous years. Right? We have identified the issue over here, right? But now, why this is an issue, we would identify this. This is an issue because the these assumptions would not be consistent in the current year due to increasing economic uncertainty, right? As applies in the case. You're able to see, and the lack of further, we can conclude the lack of further procedures means that the audit evidence is was insufficient in this area, in this part of the audit, right? You see how we are having, or how we are drafting the points. And one more point, you would be seeing that how I'm making, or how I'm drafting points one after the other, and you are able to see till going concern we were done with 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and one more point I'm coming up with is 23. 23 points, candidates, 23 marks being covered in this question, and we have to just give 15 points, 15 marks in this answer. You see how many points we have provided in the exam. We have got so many points. It's just the identification, it's just the practice which makes you perfect, right? One more thing that I am thinking of is, let's come up in this case upwards, 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 upwards. Yes, here. See, Rivers Company is a listed company operating in the construction industry. Okay. The company complies with corporate governance regulations and has an audit committee. Okay, that's good. That's perfect, right? We concluded that it's perfect, but audit committee is in operation, is there in Rivers Company. So, what is the audit committee doing when Bob was being, appointed as the audit engagement partner? Okay, the policies and procedures at Welford Company were not acting in so much, prominence, or were not properly being followed. But what was the audit committee at Rivers Company doing? The audit committee at Rivers Company should have also raised this issue that Bob should be replaced. It's 7 years now, or no? Are you able to follow what I'm trying to say? So let's draft up the final point which came in my mind for this audit committee. Then it's done. 23 points, 23 marks covered out of 15. Candidates 15 only. Rather, we can give a heading to, make it easy for the examiner. The audit committee of Rivers Company does not have issues, or does not, has not raised issue, or raised concern sounds better, about the uh, about Bob being the audit engagement partner, eighth time, right? We've stated that Bob was the audit engagement partner for the eighth time, and the audit committee has not raised an issue for this. And we can further say that uh, rather, let's redraft this point. The audit committee of Rivers Company has not raised concern about Bob being the audit engagement partner, eighth time, and for the provision of the non-audit service provided. Right? So you're able to see how we have identified so many points in this question. So till now, I think this is enough. This is it for this question, and we can continue practicing, we can continue with our focused studies. We can, draft our answers. We can focus and practice on drafting our answers. That's it. I think this is it from my side in this question. And let's continue with the next part to be in the next video. Thank you. Have a good day. Take care.
Towards the end of this video, you need to remember greatness doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of continuous effort, boundless curiosity, and a thirst for improvement. Investing time in these videos and engaging with past AAA exam questions is an investment in the brighter future you're shaping up. Keep your focus sharp, your learning continuous, and your eyes focused on your goals. Best of luck as you navigate your studies. May your dedication lead you to success in the AAA exam.